Hello, this is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Welcome to Morning Mindset Cafe, where we are gathering to discuss Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich in Pieces and Parts. Today's discussion will be centered around the idea and actual implementation of self-analysis. Napoleon Hill gives us a series of questions to ask ourselves. And it's an opportunity for personal inventory so that we can be on the road of continuous improvement. If you're familiar with manufacturing, continuous improvement is a way of life in many manufacturing circles, with the idea being that we're always looking at ways to improve the process. Same thing applies to we human beings, right? If we have the mindset that I'm a work in progress, that means that I have room for improvement. And one of the ways to do that is to establish a practice of personal inventory. Good morning, Matt. Good to see you here. So what does self-analysis and personal inventory look like? Well, in some cases, it's done on an annual basis. In some cases, you can do spot inventory checks, especially if you've identified something you've been having difficulty overcoming in terms of a shortcoming. Do you have a tendency to procrastinate? And is that something that's really been getting in your way? Do you have a tendency to only do that which you've promised to do for a client and not like overdo, but there's opportunity to do more? Do you have a tendency to withhold information because of insecurity? There's a lot of things that we as people do. Good morning, Paul. Good to see you. A lot of things we do that up till this point, we're just not sure if it's gotten in our way, and we want to know that it has. So anyway, I can share with you that one thing that I do is I try to go on retreat once a year. And I say try because I realized this morning, as I was reviewing these questions, that I didn't go on retreat last year. And that's going to change. So whether it's a retreat, I go away for 2 days into a retreat center here in the area that I live. It's called Mount St. Francis. Absolutely beautiful, glorious place. It's a quiet place. I rent a room. I can join other people if I want. There's multiple retreats going on, or I can rent a room for myself. And it is an inexpensive way to go away on purpose, retreat from the world, and use that time for introspection. And I have access to the brothers there on the site, which is really helpful when I'm questioning myself with things like this, to have somebody ask me the questions and help just walk me through. So that's one thing that I do annually. And the other thing is that I do spot checks through the day, especially if it's something I've been struggling with. In the world of business, sometimes it's the activities that we do. One thing that I struggle with is picking up the phone, doing a follow-up. I don't know why. I do. It's something I will put off. That's why procrastination is on here. Have I permitted the habit of procrastination to decrease my efficiency? If so, to what extent? This is a direct question from Napoleon Hill, not me. So what I'm sharing with you is that when I look at that question, where has procrastination decreased my efficiency? I can tell you, it is in my follow-up series. My sequence of events that I've got out, my process that I've put down for me to physically do in a follow-up system, I will put off doing things, especially if it's related to me picking up the telephone. That's procrastination. That has decreased my efficiency and my effectiveness. So to what extent has it decreased my efficiency and effectiveness? Let's take a look at how much time it takes to convince myself to go ahead and pick up the phone, right? Let's take a look at what else I'm doing instead. And yet, is it busy work or is it actually getting things done? More important? Do I tell myself it's more important? And we look at that, and I take a look at that, and I say, well, to this extent, it has decreased my efficiency to the point where it's actually affecting other work that I'm supposed to be doing. Right? So now I've identified it. And in this instance, that's all we're doing is we're identifying. Let's ask those questions of ourselves and see how we stack up and how we measure up according to our own idea of who and what we want to be doing. So who we want to be and what we want to be doing. How do we stack up? How do we measure up? And then we can go back, after answering these questions, we can go back and start looking at solutions or different ways of doing things. So that's my experience. Would love to have somebody jump in the seat, whether procrastination is an issue with you or not. Come on in. Let's talk about self-analysis, personal inventory. How do you do spot checks? Would love to have you join me. Come on in. There he is. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning.
How goes it?
Good.
Glad to hear that.
How do I?
Have you? Well, I want to know if you've slept well.
Yeah.
Okay. Just a night's sleep. Okay.
It was interesting, but how do I do spot checks? I take after my dad. I'm a listener, and he just sits and listens. So, and sometimes I ask, what do you think? And it could be that I know you for 5 minutes or 5 years. What do you think about what's going on? Or me?
Well, do you do that with yourself?
Yeah, I've done that with myself.
Okay.
It just depends on the circumstance. But, so Charlene, what do you think? Let's unpack this. Let's play Roy. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, you sure you want to know what I think?
Yeah, what do you think?
When I say that you're going to get my honest view, my honest perspective.
Give me the honest view.
Okay. What I think is that most people don't take advantage of introspection and quiet time to get to know who they are right now. And in reality, truly remove all barriers and reveal yourself to understand what you've been hiding from within yourself, so that you can then set a goal for improvement and have a benchmark to measure that improvement by.
Okay. Wow, that didn't hurt at all. Sure.
So my question to you is, do you fit in that?
I continually hear you don't know yourself by people around me. I think I disagree, but I can't see inside of me. You can. Or I should say I can't see from the outside of me. You do. And
so I do not always know how other people see me, is what I'm hearing you say, and what I'm resonating with. I do not see myself the way others see me. And it's fascinating to me to learn how other people see me. It really is, because it is so different than how I see myself. You see, I know what I've been through since age 3, 4, my earliest memories. And that is all a part of how I see myself, which is very different than how you're going to see me, because you don't know the story behind what you see now. So it's always interesting to me, and I'm fascinated by it just as you are. How do you see me? And when people tell me things and you've seen me do it, because you've sat and said, but Charlene, that's true. Well, okay. I appreciate it. It's just not, it is so jarring, right? that it's fascinating. And it's affirming, and it's pretty darn cool when I learn how people see me, whether it's good or bad, quite honestly. And that helps, I think, to do the personal analysis, to do the sit quiet and learn about me. I think it helps because I am too close, right?
Yeah, no, I have a neighbor who has a pug dog. The dog wasn't eating, was not eating.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "What do I do?" I said, "You're too close, back off." And I come in the house and I got some food, I put it out on the balcony here. Dog started mowing down. I said, "It's not you, but it's you." I said, "You're too close.
It's not you, but it is you.
You just changed environments. You just moved in. He's in an unfamiliar territory. He knows you and considers you consistent. And the dog doesn't, he wants to go back where he was to eat." I said, "It's not you. It's the changing. It's
Right.
the, you know." So, yeah, and this was like going on for a week or more.
Ah.
So it wasn't just, but he was used to where he was, and he wanted to be there instead of here. So,
Well, can you blame him?
No, change is hard.
Change is hard. It's hard for everybody, isn't it? Environmental changes most especially, because that is where we respond to things, and we base a lot of who we are on those responses. Yeah, there's Matt. It's personal. It's not personal. Dog just needs space. Exactly. And Ralph, does it really matter how people see you are? Is it more important how you see yourself? I think it's a combination of both, Ralph.
I agree.
To be honest with you, I really do think it's a combination of both. If it were solely about how I see myself, there wouldn't be 7 billion other people in the world that I have to, and a small portion of which I must communicate with. I'm here right now communicating with Brian, and with you and with the others who are listening, who are participating. There's other people involved. I am bringing something to the table. And if I harm you, or I am not acting how I think I'm acting and fitting in the world, then I need to know. I need to know. That's why I love the questions Napoleon Hill is asking, because it's directly related to my position in the world, if you will. So, things like, have I been persistent in following my plans through to completion? And if I haven't, why not? And the plans could be business. It could be personal. It could be, am I putting off meeting with Brian over a Skype call this afternoon? We didn't have on schedule, by the way, so don't panic. But, am I being the person that I want to be? Yes. I agree with that part, Ralph. But I can get so caught up in my own head that I don't understand how other people see what I'm doing. And when I hear it, honestly, it helps. It helps me to see myself a little differently. It helps me to be a little easier on myself, to not be quite so hard, because I am a terrible taskmaster when it comes to being better than what I am right now. It's not that I think I'm better. It's that I think I will never be better, which is horrible thinking, because that stops me from any action. That's how I work.
I agree. I think it's interesting how people, how do I word this? It's interesting how people take the opinion of everybody too.
Oh, yeah, and that's not what this is about.
I don't want people speaking into my life that don't need to.
Right. No, that's not what this is about. This is my, in business, I have to know how people are viewing me. I have to know because that their perception of me is what will determine the success of my business. You know, if I'm going into a marketplace, there's people there, and their perception of me is very important. Because if they don't trust me then it's not going to happen. If they don't trust the business that I'm offering as a company, if they don't trust the services, and I have to understand what those perceptions are. Because it also helps me to take that personal inventory. I'm taking measurement of myself according to my own standards, and then listening to other people to make sure that I'm on the right track. So that's how I'm viewing it.
I think in everything, Teddy Roosevelt said, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
And I think that comes to the thrust of everything in business and in personal relationships. Do you care?
And that's what all of these questions actually pertain to. That's the activity. It's the actions related to actually living the life that I want to live and being the type of person that I want to be. One of these questions, let me get this typed out so that it makes sense. Hold on here. Jeez. I swear no complaints. So this actually comes into play. This particular question is, has my relationship with my associates in work been pleasant or unpleasant? If unpleasant, has the fault been partly or wholly mine?
If you're unpleasant, it's yours.
I'm viewing the relationship as unpleasant. And what this is asking is, what part have I played in it? Doesn't necessarily mean it's been all me. Trust me, I've worked with real jerks. Trust me. Well, you are not a jerk, sweetie, just so you know.
No, the dog bark. I don't know if you heard that.
I know the dog agrees. She agrees with me. No, seriously. This is a spot check. And it's also, you know what? There have been these 3 women that I've had to work with. And in general, it's acceptable and tolerated and tolerable to work with them. But occasionally it really gets unpleasant. So what part am I playing in it being unpleasant? That's what this is about. It's taking an honest assessment of how I am participating in the world. So it makes me aware of me and other people, because I must interact with other people. And sometimes I don't do that so well.
Isn't that tough?
As sometimes I don't do that so well. Yeah. So again, it's important that because of that awareness, it's important how they see me. It becomes important, and I'm able to see it. Oh, you want to go deeper, Ralph? I can tell you some hellacious stories. That it's unpleasant for me. Sometimes it's unpleasant for them. Sometimes it was unpleasant for both of us.
Well, sometimes the first impression too is totally up.
Oh,
So
you have that. You have first impressions. We've been working together for a year, and there's no pleasantness involved. I mean, again, I can recall one time, let's see, he was a retired Army colonel, and he was not debriefed for civilian life. That was unpleasant working with him. I didn't work under him. It was unpleasant working with him, because it became our job to teach him how to work in civilian life. Yeah. And when you put that responsibility on people that are trying to focus on the work that they're doing, it's not pleasant.
It's very interesting to watch, and we only see, inside a spectrum here that we're allowed to see in. But when the president, whatever you feel about him, transitions back into public life, what's that going to look like?
Oh, that one's going to be weird. The hope is that they have assistance into transition. No. I don't know. I have no idea. I've not ever been in that position. I feel for them, for anybody who's making that level of transitions. Good morning, Ralph.
Good morning. Good morning. Love the conversation, and you know me, I always like to probe a little bit deeper. So.
Oh, we can go as deep as you want, my friend.
You were talking about a situation with associates being pleasant or unpleasant.
Sure.
And I guess my digging deeper is why is it unpleasant? Is it unpleasant to the associates, or is it unpleasant to you? And if you have a major purpose or have your purpose, and the associates in your mastermind group or in a committee group, whatever, and if somebody's not walking their talk, if they're not coming up to the challenge, and there's actions needed to be taken, yes, maybe it's unpleasant for you to exert yourself that way and lay the law down or give that guidance, but is it really unpleasant because you have that purpose, and that's part of that journey. It's part of, stepping up to create whatever you want to create.
Yeah, there's a reason I'm not working there anymore.
Yeah.
There's a reason I'm not working at a couple of places. There's a reason I own my own business.
and that's not I mean, if you know your purpose. As I shared, I'm a realtor, and I was working at a office that the broker and the other agents' values were totally different than mine.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen that. Parted ways, and I'm not condemning them. I'm just saying we weren't in alignment. So sometimes you just need to move on, because when you know your purpose in life, when that's very clear, it's easy to make that decision that, okay,
it is
going to work.
It is. And yet still then, you really should be taking regular inventory of yourself to ensure that you're living your purpose, to ensure that you are acting the way that you set standards for, to ensure that you know where you're headed. That's the purpose of the self-analysis and these kind of questions.
When you look in the mirror, you can appreciate who's looking back at you rather than not making eye contact with yourself because it's just not there.
Yes. Yes, that's it. So how do you get there? And that's the point of self-analysis, of the commitment, the growth, of those spot checks. What I do is spot checks. I mean, you don't have to do spot checks, but what I do are spot checks. Because I struggle with some of the things I've identified. I want to change about myself. I want to improve on. I want to stop doing some things, and to do that, I have to replace them with something else, and that takes practice. So I need to be able to stay on point.
I wonder if that's why people don't come on camera, because they're looking in a mirror of themselves when they see themselves.
Well, I told you when I first came on, my hair didn't scare me this morning, so it's going to be a good. I have no idea if that means a good hair day or not. It's just I've come on here and the hair scared me. It's like,
I think
wow.
it goes back to what I commented earlier. Sometimes people want to live their life for other people. They want this approval.
Oh yeah.
They feel vulnerable by coming on camera and making a comment of their beliefs, who they are.
Yeah.
And
they can full agreement.
Yeah.
Full agreement.
It's easier to sit back and just listen to the conversation and say, "Oh, this is good." But and I think you probably would agree when you have a discussion and you start going deeper, it probes, and when you probe, you stretch yourself and grow. And that's part of life. If you don't become vulnerable and take a stance or make a comment, you stay where you're at.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I fully understand those who are resistant. I mean, I understand the need for approval.
Mm-hmm.
The need from approval from people that it really doesn't matter if they approve of you or not.
And that was a point.
Because you haven't identified, I think where the exercise there would be is to, instead of bouncing like a ping pong ball between these people that do or do not approve of me and I have no idea who they are, doing things for people I don't know because they say it matters, but I don't know why. Things like that. There isn't anything solid inside. So that's the beginning, isn't it? That's before all of these principles are even introduced. It comes to often called a come to Jesus moment where you sit quiet and let's take a hard, honest look at what the heck is going on because you want something to change.
Yeah.
To that point. And if that is what part of that, the way you're expressing yourself is based on what everybody else is doing, then you can start identifying what's my purpose. Can I get close to it? Can I start identifying it? Can I get an idea of what it is and start moving in that direction? And as you do that, then the circle of people that matter when it comes to their opinion or their viewpoint of me becomes very, very small. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it goes back to the question I asked, does it really matter how other people see you? And yes, I think we all are conscious of, I think it comes to the purpose that we have in life. My purpose is to be a giving person and give out in the world. So therefore, when I'm in public, in a supermarket, I'm not going to be rude to people. I'm not going to shove somebody aside. It's not because I'm worried about how they think about me that I'm going to be. It's who I am, the character that I have. Okay, going back to.
Well, that's your behavior, but wait a second. What if their response to you is not equal to the behavior that you're expressing? What if they're expressing through their own behavior? And I'm talking about a big group. You walk in, you're the stranger in the group, because you just described you're the stranger in the group in a grocery store or what have you. You walk in, you're a stranger in the group, and your behavior is met with and viewed as passive and as easy and as not one of a giving, generous nature, but something different.
Let me tell
you. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you. I like to.
So if I'm living my purpose and I walk into a group that could care less about my purpose, I need to be aware that this group is not where I need to be. I think that's where I was trying to get to. It was kind of a fumbled way, but thank you for letting me talk it out loud.
Let me tell you a story of two guys walking in the woods, and they come upon a snake, and the snakes lash out and bite both of them. One guy sits down, takes his knife, cuts out the venom, and sucks it out and removes all the venom. The other one runs after them, after the snake to kill that snake, to stop that snake. Okay, that person dies because he's allowing that venom to go through his system. Likewise, when you're confronted by people who either want to do you harm or are not in alignment with you, you can run after and try to change them, or you can take another look and cure inside of you rather than letting the rest of the world.
That's the point.
Yeah. So
we came at it very differently, didn't we? That's the point.
My stories.
Yeah, we came at it very differently, but that is the point. Is the spot check, taking a look. Something's not quite right. Let's take a look at where I am right now. Am I in the right spot? Mm-hmm. Am I in the right place? Am I doing the right things? Am I doing the things that I promised myself I would do? Am I holding myself accountable to the level that I had set for myself? And that's what these kind of questions are about, is that let's find out what's getting in my way. How am I getting in my way of success? How am I getting in my way of being better? And a lot of times, the only way I can judge that I'm not doing so great is by other people's responses to me. Yeah. Because I cannot be completely self-aware. Honest to God's truth, it's a full-time job to do that. I cannot live in that state. Let's put it that way. I cannot live in that state. I can't.
The other moral to the story is be observant and stay away from the snakes.
Oh yeah, the most important part.
Yeah. So sometimes there's situations in life where don't put a dog in that fight when you don't have to. I'm not saying don't stand up for yourself, but I'm saying if oftentimes on Facebook people respond to political stuff up there. I've never commented.
People aren't thinking.
Yeah, I don't have anything to gain by expressing a viewpoint on there. I'm just I'm running after that snake.
Okay. Hold on a second. I'm gonna put out here, just write out here why we're even doing this. Oh crud. Ugh. Hang on tight. Keep talking, Ralph.
It's easier to be a in the seat than be the host. I know that from hosting my own blab. It's a totally different perspective when you're a host and you're trying to keep up with the comments and other people and keeping the conversation going. And I do admire.
Now that you've done it, you get it, right?
Yeah, I admire you. You always do a good job, and you're a good role model for putting on a good blab. So I thank you for your.
Oh, you're awesome. Thank you. All that for me to type out this one little bitty sentence.
It seems like when you're trying to type something up as a host, your fingers are finding the wrong keys. They're
I'm telling you. Okay, Matt. Leaders know when to walk away. Good job. Good to see you here, Matt. I know you're already gone, but bye-bye. All right, so the whole point of self-analysis is to disclose a decrease in your faults and an increase in your virtues. It's the whole point. And it's because you're either moving ahead, standing still, or going backwards in life. And your objective should be moving ahead. And if you're with me and we are moving ahead, trying to improve, wanting to be better than what we were last year, 5 years ago, yesterday, right? Then this type of self-analysis is what shows us where are we in our self-improvement, getting better journey. That's the whole point.
I think that's definite in purpose. When we have a definite purpose in life to contribute to life or to be a receiver.
Yeah, that's principle number one.
Yeah.
Yes. Have a chief definite aim, or the ultimate definite purpose, or the ultimate purpose that's the umbrella of everything that we do, right?
Correct.
So for instances, I know you guys recall me talking about Maria, Chef Maria. Her restaurant burnt up. And that didn't stop her, because her purpose in life is to feed people. That truly is her purpose. Her purpose is to feed people. So the restaurant goes up in flames, and within days, she's getting donations of equipment from people. She has secured a space temporarily, like a one-day commercial kitchen space, to be able to cook up a variety of meals to sell at a local farmer's market. And she has then secured from there another space to cook, and to, instead of being able to serve in a sit-down meal, she is selling from this space to 7 meals in a week. You know, you buy it in bulk and she'll cook it up for you and deliver it to you in that area. And while she's also got, she was invited to two events this past week to cook. She hasn't stopped. That's the point. She hasn't stopped, because she has that major definite purpose. She knows what she's supposed to be doing, and that is to feed people.
Yeah, definitely. If we're planning, we take a road trip and we know where we want to go,
mm-hmm.
and a road is closed, we'll figure out the detour.
Right.
But if it's a nice day and we're just out for a scenic drive, then we just can't meander around, and it's two totally different things.
Right. So let's bring us back. So the first principle was our chief definite aim. The second principle was the masterminding. I mean, we've already gone through five principles to get to this point. So we're now on the road of improvement, of being focused, of learning about, decision making, of deploying proper decision making that gets us moving forward, of making sure that we have persistence. We're putting things into our life. So now we're at the point that we want to make sure that we're doing them according to the way we set out at the beginning. We've already got all that. That's why the self-analysis is that, are we seeing a decrease in our faults and an increase in our virtues? What are our faults? Procrastination, lack of persistence, lack of self-confidence, indecision, whatever those may be that we identified as we were going through the principles to this point. Does that make sense?
Going back to a road trip or a pilot, flying a plane, what is it, 90% of the time the plane is off course, or if you're on a road, you're constantly moving the wheel to keep it between the lines. How that's so different in our lives. Staying
in your lane.
Yeah, but it's very important to stay in your lane, and it's important to when you have that definite purpose. It's just like a road trip. You're constantly making adjustments as you're maneuvering, and when there's a detour, you make that adjustment, but you still have that purpose where you're headed. And
right.
Reflecting is, we do it every day, all day long. And when we're walking or talking or driving, we need to do that. Yes, we need to.
So how do we do that?
Pardon?
So how do we do that? Because if we don't know where we're going to, as you said, where we want to end up, we got the roadmap, but do we have the destination in mind? So if I have a destination in mind and I have my beginning review of who I am right now, then the roadmap are those principles we've been studying and learning how to put into our lives. Tell me if I'm wrong. Put into our lives. And we get to a point now where changes have been made and we're seeing changes happening in ourselves, but also reflected in our business, in our relationships with other people and their responses to me. And we are moving along, but I think checkpoints maybe, or mile markers, put it that way, mile markers or maybe exits on the roadmap that you're laying out would be those moments of either spot checking with solid questions based on, this is where I was and this is where I want to go. How far along am I? Have I decreased those faults that had stopped me? Have I increased in areas? Am I moving forward? And then I guess those would be the mile markers, the spot checks. And then the exit is, let's take that day or two and just use it for real introspection and compare, where have I come from this point last year? How does it look? And these kind of questions help to get us focused. So, does that make sense?
Well, yeah, very, very much so. I think, when we have that true definite purpose, and one of the things that I've learned to do is write out and make it very clear as if, it exists, because it does exist. Okay. And to just like, talking about before the GPS, people lay out a map and sometimes highlight the road. And yeah, you take the exit, and oftentimes, tell me if you guys did do this on a trip. You look at the map, you stop at a road stop, a restaurant or gas station to refuel. We need to refuel our energy on this journey, on this destination.
That's a pit stop. Sorry.
Sometimes you have to look at that roadmap to, especially if you go on a long journey. This past summer, I went 5,200 miles. And sometimes you drive 6-8 hours and it feel like you didn't get anywhere on the map. But
yes.
It's good to check that map, because it's easy, especially if you get in the mountains. Sometimes the roads, you have to go west in order to head east. And sometimes when we're not clear on our definite purpose and don't watch the signs, it's easy to be focused in, okay, I'm heading north, so right is east. Okay, you take the east road that circles back around and actually goes west.
Oh, now you're describing some of my adventures on the road.
Well,
yes.
Well, but true, isn't this true in life? In our,
of course it is.
As well, it's easy to get off on the wrong path unless we go back and reflect and see where we are.
Absolutely. So a good example of that in real life, true life, my own experience, has been when I first came to Blab and started this program. I was in survival mode, laser focused on just getting by. I was coming out of that which, external forces and internal force, whatever you want, it doesn't matter. That's where I was. Okay. And I knew it, and I needed out of it. And I was trying to find ways to get myself out. And between this program and other things that I've done, I'm out of it. So I can look back now and tell you that over the past 5 to 6 months, it has been a journey, very much what you just described. So I had to go back to what is my ultimate purpose and look at that again, review these principles that I used to have in my life, because I used to do this inventory and be able to see a lot of growth. When I first started really looking at this again, I saw some, but I had to go to other people. Yeah. I had to see how are you seeing this? And they were telling me things I wasn't seeing at all, because I was looking so laser focused on just getting by for so long. I wasn't recognizing that changes were happening anyway, in spite of myself. But I also wasn't able to see that any progress. Like you say, you make that drive for 8 hours and you wonder, go ahead, drive from Louisville, Kentucky to Denver, Colorado. There's a huge stretch through Kansas that nothing changes. That kind of thing.
Yeah, your wheels are going, but you're not.
Oh, I'm telling you. Yeah, I could take a single 2 pictures and that was, and you really do feel like, where did I didn't go anywhere. You do that go through the plain states where there's just really, Montana, flat out. Highway 70
Yeah.
from Indiana east. You know, you drive for hours and you feel like you just got nowhere. Well, that happens when we're head down and, nose to the grindstone, so laser focused on what's in front of us that we don't see the progress, because it feels the same today as it did last week, as it did 3 weeks ago, as it did last month, as it did 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. And if we can't, left to our own devices, just left to me, and had I not had other people, I would still be there. That's why I'm an advocate of mastermind groups. That's why I'm an advocate of having your inner circle. That's why it's important that you have people that you can help gauge your progress, because we will forget to do the spot check. We will forget to do the inventory. And sometimes, even when I'm doing this inventory, I'm not able to see the reality of the change because it's not far enough. It's not enough. And yet when I talk with somebody, like a brother at the retreat center, he doesn't have to know me, but he's skilled in being able to walk me through, really, what was it that you were feeling last time? Why was it? Why do you think you didn't make any progress at all? You're going to have to explain that to me. I'm not understanding what you mean by that, or whatever. But to be able to pull it out, to say, you know what? I'm nowhere near the woman I used to be. And that's the important part. That's where I'm getting to.
The mastermind groups are so valuable. I forget the gentleman who did this exercise. He had someone stand up and had them stretch out their left arm. The person was right-handed, and asked the question. Told them to say their name, and when in the stiff arm. And when they said their name, he tried to push her arm down, and he couldn't. And then he asked her to make up a name. And when she made up a name, she could not hold her arm up. He was able to push it down, because when you lie, you lose strength within your physiology. And he took this experiment on further, and I did this at Toastmasters. It was an impromptu, showed up for a meeting, and the speaker wasn't there, so I did an impromptu, and I just had to listen to this. I was like, I got to try this. So the gentleman I had up there, I tried that. It worked. The next one was the people that you associate with, how important they are. And once again, I had him stiff arm, and I asked the people to think of just negative thoughts, in your mind, criticize the shirt he has on, criticize how he has his hair, just be just real critical of him in your mind. And doing that, I was able to push his arm down. As a group, the Toastmasters did that. And I had him stiff arm his arm again. And I told people, stop, think about how brave this guy is to volunteer to come up here, not knowing what the heck I'm going to do to him. And the fact that he is willing to be the president of Toastmasters, involve his time and energy, and come here to not only improve himself, but improve others. And as I asked him to think about those thoughts, and as they were, I tried to push his arm down, and that positive emission of thoughts, I was unable to push his arm down. It works. I mean, yes, it's up to us to make decisions on our life and what we do. And when we have that focus and people are in alignment with us, we have to me, you have that extended power. I know that sounds kind of woo-woo, but I thought, I just got to try this. Here I'm in front of a group of about 10, 15 people, what the heck? But the point being, it's so important to surround ourselves with people, because it leaves off an energy. He's still the same person he always was, but being with the right people, we strengthen ourselves inside us by associating with the right people. So that to me, definite a purpose is, selecting your mastermind, selecting the peers that you're with, staying away from the snakes
Right.
It's that, yeah.
How do you know how well you're doing there, though?
Here again, it is just like you said before. It's kind of hard to measure yourself, but when you have that definite purpose, that definite goal in life, sometimes you have to take those moments and reflect to see how you're doing. Another example in the real estate market, a number of years back, the market was real slow. Okay. I was down to $3 in my checking account, and I would start taking draws from my reserves, for those rainy day periods. And a gentleman approached me and says, "Hey, I want to buy this piece of commercial property that's $550,000. You do the math. It was about a $15,000 commission for me." And I asked what, he just, because I'm known in the community, he just approached me and he says, "I want to buy this." And I asked him, "What are you planning on doing with that property?" And he said, "I want to build an office building." And at that time, we had about 24% vacancy. And I said, "What do you think you can lease that for?" And he said, $12 a square foot. And I said, "Well, do you realize that there's a space right next door that's for lease for $9 a square foot? Net rent is closer to $650. Were you aware of that?" I said, "If you're wanting to build that on speculation that you can get it built cheaper because of the market right now and the market's going to rebound, if you're a speculator, I'm all in. I'm willing to help you. But if you're going to buy it today thinking that you're going to get $12 a square foot, it's not, I'm not going to do that to you." And I guess I share this because it's my, people first is my philosophy in business. What I do, it has to serve the people. Okay. I'm not there just to go ahead and pick up a commission check and run, but that's my definite purpose. And that has guided me to a business that I constantly get repeat and referral business. Okay. I guess that's what I'm, it's easy to get off track, to take a unnecessary detour.
Right.
When somebody dangles a
carrot. You're desperate, right? You're saying at a desperate moment, sometimes you do that.
Exactly. And if we have a definite purpose, and yes, sometimes we have to do things that we don't want to do so we can get to where we want to be. Sometimes I love to, I'm an aspiring speaker. Okay. I have opportunities, but I like to have more opportunities. I still work in my real estate business, but I have to stay focused on where I want to go and to use that to fund me now. But if I have to be focused that I devote some of my time to what I want to become, otherwise I won't become that. That's part of the definite purpose.
Right. So how do you stay on track?
Well, just like doing, your trip, you look at your map, you set goals, you write out very clearly the definite purpose, your vision, what you want to be. And I like to go seven layers deep in asking why. Why do I want to do this?
Right. But you've got that. You've got your definite purpose.
But when you have that, then you can see and do an outline, just like a roadmap of where my definite purpose, being a well-known public speaker. Yes, that means I may have to go ahead and speak at some local community in surrounding areas for free. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's those steps that you take to build. You have to have
So those, Ralph, are the outward steps in order to attain a goal. And it doesn't matter if you've chunked the goal down into 90 days or 6 months or a year, or whatever the end date is for you to get to what you aspire to get to. That's the outward benchmarking of I can tick it off and say I've done this and I've gotten to this and I'm good and we can have a little party now because I managed to get to this point. Celebrations matter and the business is moving forward and all is well. What I'm saying is related to what the self-analysis is about is how are you personally doing along the way? Are you moving forward internally? Are you growing your heart? Are you growing your mind? Are you changing for the better while you are ticking off the activity of improving the business? And that's where these spot check moments come in with that roadmap. You can do it right alongside, can't you? When you're benchmarking your progress on doing the small speaking gigs,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Does this really fit with my end goal? Does it really fit with who I am right now and where I want to be? Is this stretching me so that I can be better?
Correct. And here go. I think it's what I was talking about before, maneuvering the vehicle and staying on track. You've got to be constantly aware and focused on where you want to go. And yes, sometimes you got to reflect back. And when I get up to speak, I don't want to just say words. I want to live those words. Okay. And I shared before about, Facebook. Different times there's political stuff on there. And sometimes, I'm not going to lie, I'm like, ooh, I'd love to make a comment to that. But I choose to be the person that I tell people I am by not going there, not chasing that snake, okay? Not getting that venom through your system. Mm-hmm. So to me, those are checkpoints that I think that I personally do regularly. In my message, Plant Seeds Carefully, I talk about using the ego method of determining what thoughts I give attention to and what I don't. And the ego method is edging goodness out. Okay. So if I have anger, frustration, if somebody cuts me off in traffic, or I'm at the supermarket and somebody rudely cuts in front of me, I have the choice to respond to that. And how do I respond? Do I respond with, trying to say, you butted in front of me, get back behind me? Or do I say something, be a little bit more passive and just say, I hope that person gets to this destination, or if they're in such a hurry that they can't appreciate and be in the present moment, basically you send out good vibes to them. Now, things that of kindness, contribution, generosity, love, compassion, all those things are good. They pull me closer. So that's the barometer I use, and that's the parameters I set up for myself as a roadmap to stay between the lines. So if I move over and I start feeling that rumple strip on the side of the highway, I know I need to correct. And we're human. Sometimes we do, sway just a little bit. So hopefully that answers your question to how I do it. I'm not saying it's the only way to do it, but it's what's worked for me.
And that's wonderful. And I get it. Because you're solid in who you are and who you want to be and want to portray and want to be out there. That brings down to there's great value in self-awareness and self-analysis along the way to make sure that you're on track. With the book, and related to the purpose of the personal inventory, is that Napoleon Hill is saying that when you ask yourselves these types of questions, there are 28 of them in the book, which is really just a good start. And you've assimilated that information to this point where you've done an honest assessment of where you are right now and figured out gaps and room for improvement, right? He's saying you're now ready to create a practical plan for marketing your personal services. And that's what most of us are doing, is that we are, we've learned what the, you, Ralph, being in real estate, that's personal service. So we've gotten an adequate description, according to Napoleon Hill, of every principle essential in planning the sale of personal services, including the major attributes of leadership, the most common causes of failure in leadership, a description of the fields of opportunity for leadership. We've talked about that before, about being able to have access to the internet and putting ourselves out there. Main causes of failure in all walks of life, and the important questions which should be used in self-analysis. And all of this has been presented, and accurate information has been included because it will be needed by all who must begin the accumulation of riches by marketing personal services. Let's see here. I think that it's valuable to have access to a list of questions like this so that we can learn what kind of questions to ask ourselves. Like you have, Ralph, the questions you ask yourself, your spot check when you have an opportunity to act in a way that goes against who you want to be in that moment, to be able to step back, because that's what it gets us to have this type of exercise, to teach ourselves to be able to take a step back before we act or respond. And that helps to keep us on the path of moving forward, because by acting and responding against who we're trying to be, who we want to be, we're taking a step backward.
Yes, definitely.
And it can be an anchor if we're not careful. It can keep pulling us back if we're not careful. And so having these type of questions is valuable to teach us how to stay on top of these sort of things and our personal growth.
Yeah. Les Brown says, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So
I did a great song about that too.
and you know, that clear vision, the clearer you can get the vision. Okay.
Right.
And sometimes when you're on a journey, I'm not saying that you can't take detours. When we went out through Yellowstone National Park, you know, we had our trip planned, but different times as we stop to refuel, right. We pick up a brochure, and it's like, oh, this is really cool, and it's not that far out of the way.
That's flexibility.
To pick up, you know, things in life that present themselves and use them.
Yes, being flexible as I move forward in my business, being flexible, knowing when to say no, knowing when to say yes, seeing an opportunity and seeing how it fits within existing projects and things that we're working on, seeing an opportunity and seeing that it really is a detour, but it's a valuable detour, and being flexible enough to be able to say yes quickly so that can add to moving the business forward rather than take away from. Absolutely.
It's been fun. I need to run.
Okay, dear.
You have an outstanding day.
Thank you, Ralph.
Bye.
So glad you stopped in. And I am at the top of the hour, so I'm going to stop the recording. I can keep the room open for a half hour or so if you want to continue the discussion or start another one similar to self-analysis, what kind of questions to ask yourself to continually improve. And so for those who joined me in the live stream, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you here. For those in the comment section, thank you for being here. Thank you for participating in the discussion, and those listening, thank you. Wouldn't be here if it weren't for you listening in, right? This is Charlene Burke with Grow Because You Know. That's www.growbecauseyouknow.com. Let's move forward with the day on purpose, with purpose, to grow our hearts, grow our minds, and grow our businesses. Until next time, have a great day.